Hello students, good evening. In this video we are going to see the poetry Ode to a Nightingale. It was written by John Keats. Very nice poetry by John Keats. Let us see the Tamil explanation first. Okay. Ode to the Nightingale. Nightingale na ஒரு bird. Ode to a Nightingale na Nightingale கான பாடல் அப்படின்னு ஒரு மீனிங். ஓகே, ஸோ நைட்டிங்கல் பறவைக்கான பாடல் என்ற கவிதையில் பிரதிபலிக்கின்ற கீட்ஸோட ஃபீலிங்ஸ் என்ன அப்படிங்கிறத இந்த போயட்ரியில் நம்ம பார்க்க போகிறோம். ஃபர்ஸ்ட், கவிஞர் தான் ஹேம்லாக் போன்ற போதைப் பொருட்களை அருந்தியதால் மிகவும் சந்தோஷமாக இருப்பதாக கூறுகின்றார். ஃபர்ஸ்ட், பறவையின் சந்தோஷத்தை பற்றி பெருமை கொள்ளவில்லை என்கின்றார். இலகுவான சிறகுகளை கொண்டு பறந்து சந்தோஷமாக பாடுகின்ற பறவை தான் நைட்டிங்கேல் பறவை என்கின்றார் கவிஞர். ஸோ நைட்டிங்கேல் அப்படிங்கிறது ரொம்ப நம்ம ஊரில் வந்து அதை குக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம், குயில்னு சொல்கிறோம் இல்லையா, அதை வந்து ஃபாரினில் நைட்டிங்கேல்னு சொல்கிறாங்களோ என்னமோ. அது வந்து ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமாக இருந்தால், சூப்பராக மழை பெய்கிற மாதிரி இருந்துச்சுன்னா தான் ரொம்ப அழகாக பாடும். ஸோ அதை தான் சொல்கிறாரு. பறவையோட சந்தோஷம் என்னன்னு சொல்கிறாரு பாருங்க. பறவையின் சந்தோஷத்தை தானும் பகிர்ந்து கொள்ள கவிஞர் விரும்புகின்றார். மதுவானது உலக வாழ்க்கையிலிருந்து தன்னை பிரித்து பறவையுடன் இணைக்கும் என நம்புகின்றனர். மது அருந்துறவங்களாம் சொல்லுவாங்க, அப்படி வானத்தில் பறக்கிற மாதிரி இருக்குது, போதையில் அப்படி இருக்குது இப்படி இருக்குன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா, அதைத்தான் இவர் அப்படி சொல்கிறாரு. ஸோ பறவைக்கும் அந்த மதுவுக்கும் ஒரு சம்பந்தம் இருக்குது அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி சொல்கிறாரு. வாழ்க்கையிலோட உண்மைகள் என்னங்கிறத பாருங்கள். இந்த உலக வாழ்க்கையில் துன்பங்களிலிருந்து விடுபட விரும்புகின்றார் ரைட்டர். அவரை சுற்றி நோய் நொடியுற்ற வயதான துன்பமான மக்களே காணப்படுகின்றனர். இளமையும் அழகும் விரைவில் மறைந்துவிடும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாரு. இப்பொழுது கவிஞர் மதுவால் தன்னை இவ்வுலக வேதனையிலிருந்து விடுவிக்க முடியாது என நம்புகின்றார். தன் கற்பனையால் இவ்வுலகத்தை கடந்து பறவையின் சந்தோஷ வாழ்க்கையை சந்திக்க வேண்டும் அப்படின்னு அவர் நம்புறாரு. அப்போ அந்த பேர்டு எவ்வளோ ஹாப்பியாக இருக்குது, அந்த மது அருந்துறதுனால மட்டும்தான் ஹாப்பியாக இருக்க முடியும்னு நினச்ச அந்த ரைட்டருக்கு அந்த பேர்டு மாதிரி ஹாப்பியாக இருக்கணும், மது அருந்ததால் மட்டுமே சந்தோஷம் இல்லை அப்படிங்கிறத அவர் உணர்ந்துக்கிறாரு. இயற்கையோட அழகை பற்றி அவர் என்ன நினைக்கிறாருன்னா, கவிஞர் தற்பொழுது இருட்டை உணர்கின்றார். அவரால் எதையும் பார்க்க முடியவில்லை. பல வகையான பூக்களின் அருமையான மனத்தை உணர்கின்றார். தேனீக்களின் ரீங்காரத்தை கேட்கின்றார். ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் ஆல் த நேச்சர்ஸ் பியூட்டி. ஓகே, ஸோ பறவையின் பாடல் மிகவும் இனிமையாக இருக்கின்றது. இத்தருணத்தில் கவிஞர் இறக்க கூட ரெடி அப்படின்னு சொல்றாரு. ஓகே, தன் இறப்பிற்கு பிறகு அப்பறவையானது பாடலை தொடர்ந்து பாடும் என கவிஞர் கூறுகின்றார். காலத்தால் அதை அழிக்க முடியாது என்றும் கூறுகின்றார் கவிஞர். தற்பொழுது கவிஞர் இவ்வுலக நிஜ வாழ்க்கைக்கு திரும்புகிறார். கற்பனையும் அவரை இவ்வுலகத்திலிருந்து பறவையின் உலகிற்கு அவரை எடுத்து செல்ல முடியவில்லை. தன் போதையிலிருந்து கவிஞர் விடுபடுகின்றார். கீட்ஸின் நைட்டிங்கேல் பறவைக்கான இந்த பாடல் மிக ஆங்கில இலக்கியத்தில் உள்ள கவிதை பாடல்களில் மிகவும் சிறந்ததாகும். ஸோ இன் அவர் இங்கிலீஷ் லிட்ரேச்சர் திஸ் இஸ் அ வெரி நைஸ் போயட்ரி பை ஜான் கீட்ஸ். இந்த போயமில் அப்போ என்ன சொல்லியிருக்காரு அப்படின்னு சொன்னாக்க, மது அருந்ததுனால தான் சந்தோஷமே கிடைக்கும், அப்படி பறக்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு சந்தோஷம் கிடைக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிற ரைட்டர் அந்த பேர்டோட ஹாப்பினஸ்ஸை உணர்ந்து அந்த பறவை மாதிரி தானும் சந்தோஷமாக இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அவர் ரொம்ப லைக் பண்ணி சொல்கிறாரு. Now let us see the author introduction as usual. John Keats is one of the popular romantic poets. He belongs to the Romantic Age poet. Okay, he was born in London in the year 1795 and he was the son of a livery stable keeper. Okay, he was apprenticed at 15 to learn surgery. After passing his medical examination, he gave up practice and took up to poetry. So he is a doctor, but he don't like to continue as a doctor. Okay, and he once placed for himself among the famous poets of England. He became a famous poet in the country. In Britain, in England. He once said, "I think I shall be among the English poets after my death." This is the words of Keats. He is the best poet. He has certainly earned a place among the greatest poets. Matthew Arnold, a greatest critic in our English literature, has rightly said about Keats, he is with Shakespeare. This was the words by Matthew Arnold. What? He is Keats. Keats is with Shakespeare. So Shakespeare is the greatest one in our English literature. So Keats is compared with Shakespeare by Matthew Arnold. Okay, let us see about the poem. This work was composed by early in May 1819 and was published in July 1819. In the Annals of the Fine Arts, it is a work's name. In the Annals of the Fine Arts, a quarterly magazine it was published in a volume along with Lamia in 1820. It is said that Keats wrote this poem on actually hearing the song of a nightingale. Okay, in 1819, Keats spent a few months with his friend Charles Armitage Brown. Charles Armitage Brown is the friend to Keats, and in his house at Hampstead, London, a nightingale built its nest in that house. So he saw a nest in his friend's house. A nightingale built as a net in his friend's house, and he saw it. One morning, Keats sat under a palm tree and listening to the nightingale's song, wrote this poem. So he is hearing the song of the nightingale in the nest of his friend's house, and he wrote the poetry. He wrote this poetry. The poem has a melancholic tone because the poet at the time of composition had hardly recovered from the blow dealt by his brother's death. And let us see the poetry stanza by stanza. Okay, first let us pass on to the stanza 1. The first stanza, the poetic lines are: my heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and Lethwards had sung. It is not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thy happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melody's plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. So this is the poetic lines, and let me give you the explanation of the first stanza. Keats remarks that his senses are overwhelmed. He feels as though he had drunk some opiate like hemlock and sunk in the heat, the river of forgetfulness. He had attributes his drowsy feeling not to envy of the bird, but to his excessive happiness in listening to the song of the bird. He describes the nightingale as the light-winged dryad of the trees, singing in some melodious slot. So this is the explanation of this first stanza. Let us pass on to the second stanza. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep dwelled earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and Provençal song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the truth, the blushful hypocrite, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. So this is the second stanza. Let us pass on to this explanation. What is it? The poet wishes to become one with the bird and share its capture. He thinks that wine will help him to get away from his life and join with the bird. So he asks for a draught of vintage fasting of the flora, and the country green dance, and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. Or he would like to have a cup of the the blushful hypocrite, and fade away into the forest and join the bird. So this is the explanation to stanza 3. Let us pass on to the stanza. This is explanation to stanza 2. Let us pass on to stanza 3. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Here where men sit, and here some other groan, where men sit near each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad lost grey hairs, where youth grow pale and spectering thin and dies, where but to think us to be full of sorrow and leaden eyes despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or what is this? And leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. Let us see the explanation of stanza 3. The poet wants to fade and forget the painful realities of life, which the nightingale has never experienced. He wants to forget the weariness and the fever and fret of life. The poet finds all around him only people who will sit and groan, and are attacked by palsy and old age. Youth and beauty disappear quickly. The mere thought of life makes one sad. This is the explanation to stanza 3. Next, let us pass on to the stanza 4. Stanza 4 is, away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retorts. Already with thee tender is the night, and happily the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry face, but here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. So this is the 4th stanza. Let us pass on to the explanation. The poet now thinks that wine is not powerful enough to make him forget life's squalor and misery. He thinks that imagination can easily transport him to the world of the nightingale. At once, he imagines himself in the nightingale's world, marked by eternal joy and beauty. He finds himself the company of the bird in some sweet arbor in the woods. The night is soft. The moon surrounded by attendant stars is shining brightly in the sky. The poet cannot see the moon and the stars because there is thick foliage above him. This is the explanation to stanza 4. Let us pass on to stanza 5. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet, wherewith the seasonal month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up with leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. This is the poetic lines, and let us see the explanation to the stanza 5. The poet is surrounded by darkness. He cannot see what flowers are at his feet, yet he can distinguish them by smelling their fragrances, which is borne by the breeze. He can discover the scent of the white hawthorn, the eglantine, the violet whose beauty is short-lived, the musk rose, which is the first to appear in May. These are all the flowers. Which are all the flowers? The hawthorn, the eglantine, the violet beauty, and the musk rose. These are all the flowers. The smell has come out from the flowers. He just smelled out it. The honey and dew of musk rose attract bees. The humming of the bees fills the summer evening. So that is taken place in stanza 5. Let us pass on to stanza 6. The stanza 6 is darkling. I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with the easeful death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to seize upon the midnight up with no pain. While thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy, still would thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sword. So this is the 6th stanza of this poetry. Let's see the explanation of this 6th stanza. The song of the bird is sweet, expressive of unalloyed joy. The poet wants to die at this moment because this is the happiest moment of his life. The song of the bird gives him supreme pleasure. Living further would be an anticlimax which the poet does not like. Very short meaning to this 6th stanza. Let us pass on to the 7th one. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird. No hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown, perhaps the self same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home she stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that oft times hath charmed magic casements opening on the foam of perilous seas in fairylands forlorn. This is the poetic line. So what is taken place in these lines are, the poet feels that the bird would continue to sing even after his death. The bird is immortal. Time cannot destroy it. The bird had cheered up the homesick Ruth in her foreign home. The same song gave a pleasure to a high-born lady imprisoned in a tower surrounded by dangerous seas on all sides. The lady was forlorn and cheered by the song of the bird. So this is it. So let us pass on to the last stanza, the 8th stanza of this poetry. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul's self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows over the still stream, up the hillside, and now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music, do I wake or sleep? So let us pass on to the explanation of the 8th stanza. The word forlorn brings the poet from the world of the nightingale back to his lonely life. He thought that imagination would permanently take him away from miserable life, but imagination has left him down. Imagination has proved to be a deceiving elf. In this meantime, the song of the nightingale recedes. Shortly, the song fades in the distant valley. The poet recovers from his drowsy mood. He wonders whether his contact with the nightingale was real or just a dream or a vision. So Keats died of tuberculosis in the prime of his life. He has been described as a sensuous poet and as an escapist. These are all the derogatory terms in the Ode to the Nightingale. Keats certainly tries to escape from painful realities. But at the end he faces life is squarely. At first Keats stupidly thinks that he can cast away the sorrows of life by drinking the wine. He elaborately describes the particular wine which can cast a spell on him. The wine should have been in deep dwelled earth for a long time. Only then its power increases. Keats prefers the wine made France or Greece. The French wine will enable him to experience the dance, singing and merrymaking of Provence, like the sacred fountain of Hippocrene. Greek wine will inspire him to write splendid poetry. Keats gives a list of the miseries from which he would like to escape. Physical exhaustion, tension, disease, loss of youth and beauty, despair. In contrast, love. These are all the problems that pester Keats. So these are all well expressed by Keats in this Ode to a Nightingale. Very nice poetry. So according to the Keats, the wine will not be a pleasurable one while compared with the song of the nightingale. So this is the poetry. Thank you one and all.